Hey everyone and welcome back. Just wanted to do a very quick review of the new release of John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness in 4K from Scream Factory. Now, being one of the early 4K releases from Scream Factory, obviously a lot of people are very interested to know how they did, so we can hopefully look forward to a lot more 4K releases from them in the future. Now, this was already released in 4K in the UK from Studio Canal a year or so ago. In fact, here is that release right here. And of course, one of the questions I know I had was, is it the same transfer or is it a new transfer? And also, how does Prince of Darkness compare to the early Scream Factory release on Blu-ray? Now, this is one of their early Blu-ray releases. So the transfer that they got, this was, I believe, before they started doing their own transfers. So this was actually a pre-existing HD transfer that they got from Universal. And I remember at the time thinking that it, looked pretty good. But going back and looking at it now, it's like, wow. A lot of things. One, there is a little bit of shake to it. And probably the worst thing is that there is an awful lot of sharpening added to it, which was really apparent this time. Which I know sometimes people will think like, oh, look at all that detail. And it's like, that's not detail. Now, the Blu-ray that's included on the new release is identical in every way except for the transfer. It actually does have the newer transfer. But the interesting thing is that the Blu-ray has almost a brighter image than is on the 4K release, which is, I think, has to do more with the expanded color gamut of what 4K offers. So you're going to get a lot more delineation between white and black. So while it technically looks darker, it's actually a little bit more accurate to what the film is actually supposed to look like. What is new to this release, though, it does have a Dolby Atmos track that was not on the Studio Canal release. So indeed, you do get the original theatrical stereo track, you get a 5.1 track, and you get the Dolby Atmos track. So you do actually get some nice audio options. Now, the 4K disc doesn't really have many extras on it. The extras are mainly on the included Blu-ray. And as far as I could tell, they ported over all the pre-existing extras from that Blu-ray, from their previous release. As far as the comparison between the Scream Factory release and the Studio Canal release, which was done in the UK, the two look very similar, but not identical. I'm not sure whether or not it's the exact same transfer between the two. If I had to guess, I would say the base transfer is the same, but there are two subtle differences between them. And this is an interesting thing, especially as I was going through and trying to get some screen grabs of them. Now, these are pictures I took of the screen, so just take that into consideration when you're looking at them. These are not actual screen grabs. So they both look identical in so many ways, as far as, at least that I could tell, the brightness, the contrast, and all that basically looks identical, and including some minor artifact that happened in a couple of the sky shots. And again, that seems identical between the two, where you have a shot of the sky and there's very, very minor artifacting that is taking place. And again, that's in both releases. Not a big deal. I don't think most people would even notice it. It's not like Total Recall where it was just like, oh my god, look at those blocks of artifacts. Like, this is definitely a lot more subtle. And again, it's only, as far as I could tell, it was only in a couple of these sky shots. But they're also, I believe, process shots. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but it's just worth noting. That's all. Now, the weird thing between the two releases is the fact that there is a color shift in one release and then a different one in the other release. So in the Studio Canal release, as you can see here, there's a slight shift towards red, whereas in the Scream Factory release, it seems like a slight shift towards green. And you can see that in this shot as well. Here's the Studio Canal release with, again, a shift towards red. And here's the Scream Factory release with a shift towards green. And then finally in this shot, again, you can see sort of a slight shift towards red in the Studio Canal and a slight shift towards green in the Scream Factory release. Now, other than that, the two releases literally look identical. That's why I'm kind of not sure why one has one shift in one direction and one in the other. And I don't know which one is technically more accurate. Maybe they're both not. Maybe, again, somewhere in the middle is probably the more accurate one. Now, is that a fault of one version over the other? I just don't know. And now, is it a big deal? For me, no. But it is something just to take into consideration. I mean, overall, I am very happy with this 4K release from Scream Factory. Definitely worth checking out, especially if you've never seen Prince of Darkness. I do highly recommend recommend it. In my opinion, it's one of John Carpenter's more underrated films. Indeed, I've seen several people say it's their favorite John Carpenter film. So despite a couple minor issues, and I don't know whether or not they are issues, I have questions, I should probably say, I still say this is a really great release. And I'm really looking forward to see Scream Factory's upcoming releases in 4K, especially Army of Darkness, because if I'm not mistaken, that is actually one where they're actually doing the transfer themselves. So I would say that is probably going to be a much more accurate look at what their 4K releases are going to be going forward. And I'm so happy that they are doing 4K, because that obviously means that they're going to be around for a while. And for all of us who definitely, want physical media to remain, that is definitely a good sign that they are jumping into the 4K arena. Definitely let me know your thoughts, and if you also have the Studio Canal release, definitely let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.